This conference will now be recorded.
So welcome back to part 2, pivot tables. Basically, I will continue everything where we left off at. So one of the last things I had mentioned to everyone is that your pivot table needs to have clean data. You need to also make sure that you have labeled your columns, and also you have to have at least 3 columns of data, no blank rows or columns. And all in all, pivot tables are pretty much easy to build. You just need to get familiar. Now, this is the result of the last thing I went over in the first tutorial. So, first thing I want to point out, the numbers. I want all the numbers to be formatted at the same time as currency. So I'm drawing open this menu. I'm going to choose number format. There's the option. Done. So again, all I had to do was format all the numbers. Next, if I want to change how it looks, under my pivot table tools, there's a design tab, and you'll notice there's a light category at the top. There's also medium, and you can see their names right here, dark. So you just kind of go through, figure out the one you like. And I guess since it's October, I'll go with colors like this. All right. So the basic formatting is done. Now, as far as the table and pivot chart is concerned, you can make even the simplest data that can be a little difficult still to understand, even a little bit easier. You can use a pivot chart. So one of the things I'll point out is the pivot chart, which is under my pivot table tools tab. This is called Analyze. See, I'm waving at you. This is the pivot chart button right there. So you activate that. Figure out the best chart type for your data. And I usually like to move it so you can see them both. And it's very interactive because I can go to the legend where you see the line field, and I may not want to view everything. See, I can choose the sales rep as well. See that? There we go. So that pretty much sums it up. Now my pivot table changes automatically because they're linked. So if I unfilter everything that I've done, the pivot table will go back to its original form. See, easy does it. I would say one of the best things, if you're not really a chart person, at some point you're going to need to use them. Learn the basic charts first, if at all possible, or just go through the pivot chart tools section of the ribbon and really get yourself, familiar with these tabs: Analyze, Design, Format. Now, here's a pivot table that I'd like to focus on for just a few minutes. Here I have data I want to focus on, B10. We have a sum of sales of 4,000 for the sales rep Harper, and look at the line field value, children's clothes, right? Now I want to change it to 7,000. You cannot do that in Excel. If I try to change it or if I try to delete it, I get messages. And basically, you can't edit the data here. You have to go back to the data source. That would be this page, sales figures. This is the worksheet. So here's the 4,000 for Harper. Remember, line field was what? Children's. So I can change that. Very easy. But I need to go back to the table. It did an update automatically, and it never usually does until you change some of the settings. But for now, I will go up to Analyze, and I will refresh it. All right, this is Office 2019. If you have 2010, it's not called the Analyze tab in that version. It's an older version. It's called Options. But anyway, anything that is after 2010, you'll see an Analyze tab. So just activate, refresh, and look at that cell. It updated, B10, 7,000. That's important. You want to make sure that you go back to your original data source, make any necessary changes that need to take place, then go to your pivot table and manually refresh it. Another thing I need to point out about this pivot table that you may or may not even notice or it may not even phase you, but see how these cells say column and row labels? I mean, that's okay, but I may want to change that so it's a little more, specific. So that's a look and feel type of thing. So activate your design tab, report layout. And one thing I wish Microsoft would have done, because you may not even realize it, right now this pivot table is displaying the results in compact form. But how would you know that? Exactly. So if I switch it from compact form to the second one that you just saw, now you can see the actual labels, the line field, the rep field, region, hello. Now, look, change it back to the way it was. Now we're seeing those column and row labels again. Where's region? I don't know. Well, I see it here in row 4, but you see my point? So there's different layouts that we can pick and choose from. Not a whole lot, but how much do you really need? It's a pivot table. You're moving it here, you're moving it over there. So pretty amazing if you ask me. So I do like the tabular and outline form. There are some differences. I would say just play with it until you kind of get it exactly where you need it. And depending on what pivot table style you use, options will vary. And then there's some other things in here too you may want to take a look at, such as grand totals. Remember, they're always turned on by default, or are they off? You can turn them on or off. Subtotals, if you want to integrate those, blank rows, you can remove them, insert them, that sort of thing. So not a whole lot in the design tab, but definitely helpful to know. But your Analyze tab has a lot more options. Now, I'm going to go back to my original pivot table. And by the way, I would rename these. If they're one pivot table, I think you probably should name them and be very descriptive in your names. Like, define the purpose of it. After 3 or a dozen of them, I would think you would have a good system for naming them. Now, okay, here's the one pivot table that I did with you. Now, what I'd like to be able to do with this particular pivot table, I really, really, really want to slice it and dice it. Now, I don't really need this chart to remain here. So what can I do? Well, let's see. I can come up here to my ribbon, and there's a whole bunch of stuff up here. I really just want to, that's the design tab. I really just want to move it on another sheet because it's already getting overcrowded. I'll just put it on another blank sheet. And again, names like that are not really good when you have more than one. And even one, if you're going to share this with other people, I would definitely give it a name that's more descriptive or, to the point. At any rate, let's get back to business, right? So here's the pivot table, right? Now, I got region. Now, yeah, I can filter them. That's all fine and dandy. But if I do like multiples and I send this to a couple different people, they may not know what they're looking at. All right. Yeah, if you select one, they should know. So anyway, multiple items, what the heck is that? Well, all right, let's just bring it all back. There's got to be a better way to do this. There is. It's called the slicer. Insert slicer. Interactive and simple way to visually filter your data. Now, I can choose any items that I want as long as they're listed here. And then I can take each window, move it and resize it accordingly, or as long as they can fit and get along with each other. Uh-oh, having a little collision there. So anyway, they were kissing each other. So I can just filter, 1, 2, 3 items, 4 items. Now they've integrated a new option up here. At least if you have 2016 and obviously 2019, that's what I have. You can use the button. So in other words, you don't have to hold the control button down to select a non-continuous range or shift, to select a continuous range like 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to clear out my filters. See the little red X with the funnel? Yep, there you go. So really, really helpful to know this, guys. And I'm going to go light on this, but not a biggie. But if you want to integrate different colors, I don't know if you have a need to do this. If you only have one slicer window, it may not be the thing that you have to worry about. This is the least of my worries. So at any rate, the slicer windows are, used just to filter data in a visual, interactive way. All I'm doing now, I'm just resizing them. If you have a lot of items, you'll get a scroll bar, and that could be just as helpful. All right. So now, the big mistake a lot of people make, they click a blank cell. All the stuff you just saw in the ribbon, all the pivot table stuff, that stuff just disappeared. You got to activate your pivot table template report, and then all the pivot table tool contextual tabs will come up. The window on the right, the window pane pivot table fields will come back into its form, in its place. But like I said, if you click a blank area, that stuff is out of here, but it's not permanent. You just go back to the cells where the data is and you'll be just fine. Now, one more thing, we're going to wrap this up. Now, it's great that I have all the 4 regions in this one report, but John says to me, Pat, is there like a way you can put my stuff on its own sheet and then the other regions or locations on their own sheets so those people can focus on their stuff without focusing on everybody's stuff? And there is a way to do it, and it's very easily done. So pay attention to this. This is called the filters layout area. And the reason why I put region there was not just to filter it, okay? I want to make sure that the 4 people that John spoke about will have their reports on separate worksheets in the same workbook file. In order to do this, you must indicate the field or fields, because you can put multiple fields in these areas, and you have to put that in the filters area, okay? And since I said multiple fields, watch this. Here goes sales. I'm going to drag it, drop it. Now, why would I do that? Well, let me get rid of this slicer window because it's actually getting in the way. I don't need 2 fields that do the same thing. So ideally, I go into this little menu item and I select value, field settings. You activate that, a window opens up. I just want to know the averages. What are my sales averages? Now, you might want to reword this a bit and be done with it. See? So there you go. Now I got 2 different types of things going on in here, and it's really, really cool. Again, just to reiterate, I want these numbers to be consistent with the other currency numbers. So you just edit that, change it back, or change it to, I should say, and look, there's your averages as currency versus the sum of sales as currency. So you want to have consistency. I believe that consistency is extremely important in this walk of life. Now, getting back to the separate, report pages. Now, John needs his region, which might be, southeast or northwest. So let's give it to him. Now, I activate a cell, doesn't matter which one. Thank God you don't have to highlight every cell. Now, under the ribbon tab, Analyze, you're going to see a button that looks like a little triangle. This is pivot table options. All right, so get to know each other, and a shortcut menu is displayed. Again, don't just run to the options button. Click here, show report filter pages. The only thing that's there is region, right? Filters, region. Make sense? Are you making that connection? Hopefully there's no disconnect here. At any rate, I'm going to click OK to that, and then let me click back on it. Now, look very carefully. John wanted, his on its own page. So there's Midwest by itself, and it's the same report, except it's geared towards regions now. So there's Northeast, Southeast, and finally there's West. And there's John with a smile on his face. And I'm telling you, this is absolutely not as difficult as people say it is. I don't think pivot tables are difficult. And look, neither does John. John is very happy. Oh, now he's not. But on a serious note, try the pivot tables. If you would like a sample file, all you need to do is contact me directly. There are so many things you can get out of your data if you pivot the data in many different ways. It can definitely be done. It's an amazing, powerful tool for people to get acquainted with. Well, that's all I have for today. I thank you so much for watching my video. And if you missed part 1, make sure that you take a look at that one. I'm going to make these available on my channel on YouTube, so you can also subscribe to that to further your technology education. And again, I thank you so much for taking the time to learn at my perspective, and I really hope I made a difference. Thank you so much and have a great day.